Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Cloud Career Q&A session. How's my internet, everybody? Just out of curiosity. I'm down here in Florida where we're expecting some bad weather. Mike, Alonzo,
it's mostly working.
All right.
We've seen sunnier days, pun intended.
Yes. Well, Michael, welcome us to the Cloud Career Q&A session today.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're here to help answer any questions you have about building a cloud computing career. Maybe you want to be a cloud architect or a cloud enterprise architect or a solutions architect or a cloud engineer or any career that's on the cloud, like a cloud network engineer or a cloud security engineer or a cloud security architect. We're here to change your life, to help you get the best advice to go directly to your career. 25 years ago, when I started out my career, when I left internal medicine for tech, I found the VP of architecture and I asked him, what is the thing that you can do to be the best architect out there? And he gave me a list of things. Within 2 years, I was a principal architect. Others had 15 and 20 years of experience and weren't there, but they were there because I got the right guidance. That's why I'm here to help you. I've been an architect now for over 25 years. I spent more than 2 decades getting people hired. I have students and graduates that are now working at AWS, at Apple, at Microsoft, at Cisco, at Google, at Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini, PricewaterhouseCoopers, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Barclays Bank, the British Broadcasting Company, and any company who matters, our graduates are there. In the last year, we've gotten people jobs from about $100,000 to $404,000, and I want to help accelerate your career. I don't want you making mistakes. I want you to take the fast track, knowing exactly what to learn, the most valuable skills, because how you spend your time determines your career. Focus on the high-value skills, you've got a high-value career. Focus on the low-value skills, and most people sadly don't know which is which, and they focus on the low-value skills. Years later, they've never achieved their goals, and when they do, their salary is a third or half what it could be. So ask us your questions so we can help you. A couple of things we have that I'm pretty excited about. We have a completely free guide for you to download on how to become a cloud architect and get your first cloud architect job. This will tell you everything you need to learn. We don't code as architects. We don't configure as architects. We don't do maintenance as architects. We don't do DevOps. We architect. And this will tell you every skill you need to be a world-class architect where you can get a job anywhere, anytime, for the most part, for any amount of money that you actually desire. So please download that. And also, tomorrow, guess what? We have a free Cloud Architect Challenge. It'll be a simple architecture because, we're dealing with people from all over the world. And we'll give you a chance to be a cloud architect, a chance to do what we do, get the information from the client, for example, and then design a solution, and then sell us back the solution and convince us why we need it. This is exactly what we do as architects. And we're going to teach it. We'll guide you through the experience. We hope you can do it on your own, because if you can do it on your own, guess what? You're ready to be hired, and you'll know, and you'll win on that next interview. But if you can't, guess what? You'll know you need training, and you know exactly what kind of training you'll need because you've lived the life of the architect, and you know what we now do. And now you'll be in a better place, whether you get your training from us or whether you go out there and learn somewhere else. At least you'll know exactly what you need, because I promise you, it's not Python, it's not sysops, it's not DevOps, it's not Linux. It's system design and architecture and designing systems to improve business performance. And we want to get you hired. We want you getting the best jobs. My students get hired every single day. So why are we here? We're here for the reason of this. We need you to, I want you to ask questions. Tell us your goals, ask us your questions, and we will guide you. It's completely free. Don't be shy. I've got now over an 18-and-a-half-week wait for people to book a private session with me. And it's $1,200 a session. And it's honestly the opportunity cost of my time, because I'm not there, I'm somewhere else. And it's still 18-and-a-half weeks to ask me questions because of the results I get. I got one person 2 weeks ago, a $250,000 raise that's been working in tech for 20 years. He's thrilled. I want to help you. I'm here completely free today. I'll be here free to you tomorrow night on the Architect webinar. And ask your questions so we can help you. That's why we're here. I'm here with myself. I'm here with Alonzo Coleman. He's my Chief Marketing Officer. He's an extraordinarily good cloud architect. We trained him. He got a job on the cloud. I begged him to come back. Chris kind of helped me with that because Alonzo's a really close friend. And he is here. Alonzo, you want to say a few words while we wait for people to ask their questions?
Absolutely. I can't stress it enough for everyone to really think about what you want to do, how you want to get there, what are your short and long-term goals, and do you have the resources needed to get there? And to be frank, we have what it takes to make sure that those cloud architectural aspirations are realized here. We have a wonderful staff, a wonderful curriculum. It gets you there to the shortest path possible. Now, we have a lot of resources out there, and a lot of them say that they can do and provide the cloud architectural needs and provide those for you. But unfortunately, they're wrapped as cloud architectural resources, but the core of that candy is more focused on engineering. And we don't want you to have to go round and about to get where you want to go. We want to get you there as quickly as possible with the right competency and experience and capabilities possible. So please ask your questions, if you will. We want to get you there, and we're looking forward to being there when you get cloud hired.
All right. So I'm excited to be back. It feels like it's been forever since I've been on one of these things. So I've been under the weather the past couple of weeks. And then with this hurricane, I didn't even know if I'd get on here today. But it's a little bit slower than expected. So that's good. Anyway, I want to tell everybody, please ask us your questions. It's inevitable. Every single time we do these, people wait to ask their questions, and then we run out of time. And then when we run out of time, then people all want to ask their questions when we say that we've run out of time. So that doesn't quite work in your favor if you wait until we run out of time to pile in questions. So ask your questions now. Now, there's no right or wrong questions. So there's no good or bad questions. There's just questions. So make sure to ask your questions. We want to help you. So Latif over on, looks like Jacqueline was first. Jacqueline over on LinkedIn says, help and guide me on this from Kenya.
Jacqueline, I still need to know what you'd like to do. I'm thrilled that you're joining in from Kenya, but every job has different skills. A physician, a pharmacist, a nurse, and a physical therapist are all in healthcare, but they all do different things. Please tell me the job that you desire in the cloud. Like a cloud architect who designs versus a cloud engineer who builds versus a DevOps engineer who basically automates software release cycles. Tell us the role you want, and we will be very good by getting you this specific path. But all these careers are very different. They all require a completely different skill set. And if you study the wrong skills, you won't be hired. What if I told you that 99% of the people that want to become architects learn all the wrong skills? And then they go on an interview where the manager's ready to hire them, and then they mess up. And the hiring manager uses the euphemism, come back when you have more experience. If somebody's willing to interview with you, it's because they're willing to hire you. It's the interview that determines the hire versus no hire. So Jacqueline, I want to help you. I really do. Please tell me your goal career, and we will tell you how to get there. But the way you go from Kenya to Ethiopia is different than the way you go from Kenya to South Africa. And in order to build that roadmap, we need to know your destination.
All right. So next one on LinkedIn, Latif says, I'm wondering the best path to go in cloud and automation.
Latif, again, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend automation, and I'll tell you why. Artificial intelligence is going to automate most of the things that we actually do right now. So things that a lot of engineers do, which are now automating, can be better done by AI than automation engineers. But I need to know what you want to do in the cloud. Do you want to be a DevOps engineer, which does a lot of automation? Do you want to be an architecture person who's designing systems that have more cloud things? I really need to know what you'd like to do. So let's get to your goals. I'll answer a few more questions. Tell me your actual desires, and we can get you hired no matter what. We can just tell you what you need. You have studied for AWS, Azure, and GCP, but haven't done any certifications. Great, because certifications are meaningless without the actual knowledge. And you don't know what the market requires. You learned there's a cloud migration, but you want to be a cloud expert. Well, Latif, in order to become a cloud expert, you're going to have to pick one thing, and you're going to have a laser-like focus and focus on it for 10,000 hours. But we can easily get you the skills to get any job you want, but we need to know what that job actually is. Do you want to be a systems designer? Meaning, let's say Alonzo is the chief information officer of a company. I ask Alonzo about his challenges, his business goals, his pain points. I then meet with him, the chief information officer, the chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, the chief operating officer, the department heads, and then figure out what's going right in their business, and then design a technology strategy to improve their business performance. That's what a cloud architect does. By comparison, a cloud engineer is the person that codes and configures and builds it. By comparison, a DevOps engineer is someone that automates software release cycles. I don't recommend anything in the software development world because AI can do it, and I think most programmers will be out of a job in 5 to 7 years, except for the best of the best. But it's there, and that is a job for people that's valid. And if you want that, there's certain things you can do to become an expert DevOps engineer and not be replaced by technology. But also, you could be interested in functioning in big data, which is one career, or networking in the cloud, which is another career, or security. So please tell us what you want, Latif, and we will give you a roadmap, but we need to know exactly what you're there.
All right, another question over on LinkedIn from Idozi. I'm currently studying for my cloud certification exam. Can I get a job with my first cloud practitioner for certification?
Idozi, I'm going to be completely honest with you. There is no AWS, Azure, or Google certification that will get you a job. None of them. The only certification in the world that will ever get you a job on certification alone is the Cisco Certified Internet Expert. But it's going to cost somebody $10,000 to $30,000 to pass that exam. They're going to be reading about 75,000 pages of Cisco networking material, and they're going to have to do a tremendous amount of hands-on to get there. The rest of these things are more helping you know and learn and sell the vendor's products. So the sad reality is there's no certification that's going to be there. But here's the good news, Adozi. You can get any job you want with the right skills. Any job you want with the right skills. I promise you, we get people hired every day with zero background. It doesn't matter. But they all have skills, and some of them get hired with 0 certifications. I'll give you some examples. Ivan Tambo was hired by AWS. No work experience whatsoever, came from Cameroon, got hired. Coyote was Cameroonian, recently got hired at AWS. Jordan Kitko was a college student of ours, got hired by AWS. Robert Welch was 61 years old. We got him hired recently as a cloud security architect, for example. Let's take a few other examples. We have Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom, got hired. As a cloud architect working for Microsoft. We had Daniel Bose, who didn't even graduate high school, and he's working at JP Morgan Chase as a cloud architect, and his last job was selling shoes at Nordstrom. A couple more examples would be Jennifer Ema, who was a mental health tech, who's now working at JP Morgan Chase, versus Wallace Agana, who's working at JP Morgan Chase, and his last job was a sales rep. Any of you can get any job you want with the right skills. But there are zero skills that you're ever going to learn in a certification that's valid. You can think of a certification as wrapping paper. So let's say you wanted to get your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever the case is based upon you. Let's say you wanted to get them the ultimate gift. And you put the gift in the box. That's the gift. The certification is like pretty wrapping paper on top of the gift. Now, from a hiring manager perspective, and I've interviewed over 6,000 people from a hiring manager, 99% of the people that come in, their training is exclusively certifications, which is all entry-level stuff, when they're basically like an empty box with nothing in there. The key is for you to have the right skills for the job. So if you can tell us the job you want, we can give you an exact plan to actually get there easily. But again, the dog wags the tail. The certification is the tail. We need to be the person that wags the tail. The tail doesn't wag the dog. So tell us exactly what you want to do. And again, I can get you there. But this is like treating a patient. We've got to make sure that we have the right skills for the right job, because we can easily get you your goals. But again, we still need to know that.
All right. Looks like Latif gave us some clarification. It says, I am currently a network engineer and would like to become a cloud security engineer.
Okay, Latif, totally possible. Now, I'm going to tell you, it would be a lot easier to be a cloud engineer than a cloud network engineer than a cloud security engineer, because you're already there. But let's tell you what you need to know. To be a really good cloud security engineer, you need to know a lot of networking, which is good. You probably already know it. And you also need to know security. So what are we really talking about? We're talking about next generation firewalls and how they work and how to configure them. Because guess what? We're not going to be using any of these cloud native things like AWS WAF. They're not good enough for real security. We need enterprise security. So get used to configuring next generation firewalls. Get some hands-on time with Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint, and Cisco. They're your main firewalls. We use them everywhere. Get used to intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. And yes, they are part of most next-generation firewalls, but some organizations will use these IDS and IPS systems for additional information. Now, After that, you've got to get really good at packet filtering. I suspect you've worked with a whole lot of access control lists on routers, but get used to it. You're going to have to get used at hardening systems. Things like anti-malware that's going to be put on the systems, antiviruses that are going to be on the systems, taking Linux systems and Windows systems and disabling unnecessary services, understanding the patch management strategies. You're going to have to get really good at understanding demilitarized zone design, for example. You're going to have to get really good at data loss prevention strategies and how you would actually use them. You're going to have to get very good at SIEM or event monitoring of logging and things coming in that are there. You're also going to get pretty good at encryption strategies, whether that be encrypting storage or encrypting the WAN, whether that be a private line or whether that be a VPN of any one kind. Beyond that, you're going to have to be very good at assessing people for social engineering, for example, and anti-phishing and anti-malware campaigns. You probably should get a good understanding of some security frameworks, such as the NIST framework and things that are going to be there. And you really got to get, for you as an engineer, hands-on experience. Architect, we're not hands-on. We don't touch the technology, but engineers are hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. So get used to those kinds of things. Get used to vulnerability management. You develop those skills, you will be valuable in any environment. Now, why do I care any environment? If I told you that 98% of organizations are multi-cloud. So guess what? Here's the really good news. It's the same firewalls in our data center and AWS and Azure and Google, Alibaba, and anybody else's cloud, because we're not using the cloud native stuff anyway in a multi-cloud environment. So get real good at those things and you will have the skills to be a cloud security engineer. Now, I'd probably still get used to some infrastructure as code, even though that's not going to be your main job. And I would probably also get used to, for an engineering perspective, some Python scripting and Bash shell scripting. And those are good skills. Now, that's to be a defensive security engineer. If you want to be an offensive security engineer, you probably need to get some really good amount of hands-on time into actual hacking and social engineering, getting used to Kali Linux tools and things like that. But the list I gave you, you master those things, you will always have a cloud security engineer job. And you'll have a wonderful, wonderful career. And you'll stand out head and shoulders above the rest. Great question, Latif. And thank you for providing the information, because I really wanted to help you.
All right, I'm going to ask Alonzo to kick this one off. I'll let Mike chime in. From Be Intentional, please, I would like to know, is it too late for someone with a PhD in biology, 33 years old, to transition into cloud architecture? Mike, Alonzo, you're muted.
Alonzo's muted.
I'm so quick on the draw to answer this question. I forgot to hit the mute button. Be intentional. It is never too late. Okay. Let's just start off right now. We've got two alumni from our program who were in their 60s and they got cloud architecture jobs. You are just a tad percentage over half of what their age group is. So imagine the determination, the patience, the focus, the papers, the people you had to talk to. You had to defend your dissertation and so on, just to have a PhD in biology. Think about coupling all of that as a foundation towards becoming a cloud architect, and you are not going to have a problem at all. You spent a tremendous amount of time, resources, financial resources, and so forth to get there. And I tell you, the good news is that you're not going to have to spend nearly as much money to get to the cloud architectural role. Okay. So you have the focus, you've got the capability, competency, and everything else to have a PhD in biology. Okay. So you're not going to have a problem here, not by a long shot. I think you have everything it takes to become a cloud architect, even an enterprise architect. So all you have to do is commit here the same way you did to get that degree, and you're going to be tremendously successful.
Yes. And here's the key. Your PhD in biology is far better to me than a degree in computer science. And here's the reason why. When people go to school and learn computer science, they learn things like coding. There is no coding in our job. See, the thing with architecture is it's not what's in front of you. It's how one system impacts another system. So the PhD in biology is much better because it really talks about systems in general rule. Let's say we've got to produce energy, for example. If I need a short burst of energy like a kick in a martial arts, we're using the phosphagen system to generate ATP. And we're using creatine primarily as a fuel to generate it. Likewise, if we're going to run for 60 seconds hard, we're going to use mostly the lactate energy pathway, and we're going to do non-oxidative phosphorylation. I'm going through this for a reason because I know you're going to understand it. And likewise, if I'm sitting here watching,
I don't.
and if I'm sitting here watching TV, I'm going to use the oxidative path, and I'm going to take a fat molecule, and I'm going to create my ATP with that, with oxidative phosphorylation. Now, be intentional. The reason I mention this is architecture. Let's say I go out there and run as hard as I can. You know, even without oxygen getting to the muscles, I'm generating ATP and I'm able to run. But after that, what's going to happen? After that, my heart rate's going to go thump, 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 thump. My respiratory rate's going to go up. My blood vessels are going to go dilate to get blood to the muscles. And then afterwards, I'm going to be in an oxygen debt. I'm going to have to breathe in to get rid of that excess carbon dioxide and lactic acid. As we go back to restore homeostasis, my body then has to buffer and get the pH of my blood back up to normal. Otherwise, I'd be in a metabolic acidosis state. See, what I described was how one system affects another system, which affects another system, which affects another system. That's why I love people from healthcare. I used to practice internal medicine, be intentional, and I decided that I wanted to go into tech. 6 months later, I was a senior engineer, and a few months later, I was a lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider. And within 2 years, I was a principal architect. So be intentional. You have a great background. You have a great education. You know how to research. You know how to learn. You know how to write. Well, we'll have to reteach you how to write because we're going to have to take you from academic writing into executive writing, which was, you know, something after a couple master's degrees I had to do. But love your biology background. It's a fantastic background. And hey, if you're one of our students, we can get into some fun discussions about biology and any kind of systems you actually want in the body, whether it's molecular biology or traditional biology. I love it. So you got a great background. Believe it in yourself and you can do anything.
All right. I love this. My first day back on the live streams and I get my question. So if you will, gentlemen, I'd like to answer this one first and then we'll go into it with all of you. Fenton says, many cloud architect roles I see have steep requirements, asking for 5 years in a leadership role, technical acumen. How does your program close the gaps with current skills of the students in your program? So you are absolutely right. The job descriptions list all these things. The job description for the architect wants 5 years of experience. The job description for help desk wants 5 years of experience. The job description for entry-level programmer wants 5 years of experience. For entry-level programmer, they want 5 years of experience. The job description for the customer service representative at Best Buy has 5 years of experience. The job description for customer phone support at Spectrum Internet or AT&T Internet has 5 years of experience. Every job description in the world has some type of experience requirement. They also have unrelated requirements. They also have requirements that don't physically exist. I've seen job descriptions that require longer than Kubernetes has been in existence. I've seen job descriptions that require conflicting requirements that make no sense. Now, everything I've said is what I've seen. Now, let me tell you what I've been told by vice presidents of human resources, directors of hiring, recruiters, CIOs, and everyone over and over again. This is what they say behind the doors because they're not going to go out there and say it publicly. I've been told, and actually our entire class has been told by a visiting representative from a tech company who is now the vice president of hiring or vice president of human resources. They were director of hiring at the time. That when our students asked about a job description, this person specifically told the entire class that, oh, that job description must be a bad copy and paste job. Meaning, literally, somebody went and copy and pasted something that didn't make any sense. I've also been told on more than one occasion that a job description is contradictory. to itself. So within the four bounds of the job description, it contradicts itself and does not make any sense. So I say all this to say, from my background, having worked in human resources and my background as a hiring manager, that job descriptions hold no weight. Job descriptions, it sounds harsh, but job descriptions are worthless because of the amount of effort that goes into making the job descriptions. Hiring managers and human resources will literally copy and paste a bunch of stuff and it turns into a Frankenstein. And you've got somebody that wants 5 years of experience, 16 certifications, and coding and engineering and customer service and this coding language, 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 this. They want you to have 18 languages, all for a job that doesn't require coding.
Yep.
So yes, that is a problem. Now, how does our program close the gap with the current skills of the students in our program? For the architect program, we train you on everything that you need and nothing you don't. So if you see a job description, we're probably not training you on 90% of the stuff that's on the job description, because 90% of the stuff on the job description is not the job. So the way that we close the gap is by training on what the hiring manager actually wants and what the job actually entails. And this is an unfortunate situation because this whole thing about job descriptions creates this constant, like, never-ending situation of job descriptions. People see job descriptions. People then try to develop skills for that job based on the job description. Person then goes and applies for a job and gets rejected because they don't match the requirements of the actual job because they tried to fit the job description. So they start back over, they go back, they look at more job descriptions, they do the same thing over and over again. It creates a never-ending loop. And that's one of the biggest problems with not just cloud architect roles, but most jobs these days, is that the job descriptions don't match the reality of the job. So I'm glad you asked that question. I'd love to hear what Mike and Alonzo have to say now that I'm on soapbox.
And C. Fenton 7, I'm going to make it clear that we have people with zero experience now working at AWS, Azure, Deloitte. We recently had Al Legister get a senior solution architect job with zero experience. We have them at KPMG, Capgemini, JP Morgan Chase, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all with no experience. And the reason is we spend upwards of 700 hours in our training program teaching our people. We teach them the networking and data center skills and cloud skills that are necessary to design. We teach our students how to present. We teach our students how to lead. We teach our students how to sell. We teach our students how to manage stakeholders. We teach our students how to give a presentation. We teach our students how to negotiate a raise in a business deal. We teach our students how to interview. And we teach everything. Now, I'm also going to tell you that I came from healthcare to tech, and guess what? I've never been on an interview that I didn't get hired. And I've never even applied for a job except for one where my wife did. And she applied for me. I got a Mac and she thought it was cute, so she applied for me. And I guess she didn't like that I was living in Dubai at the time, coming back and forth once every 30 days and going from country to country as an architect. I've never been on an interview that didn't get me hired. I don't care whether it's Jeffrey West, who was a geologist who got hired at Calian after us. I don't care if it's Noah Parker, who was a social worker who just got his first job. I don't care if it was a student of ours that was selling perfume that just got his first job the other day in his last job. I just don't care. It's not what you've done in your past. It's there. Now, the reason it's so easy to get a cloud architect job is you can't find one. I mean, there's a reason JP Morgan Chase hired Daniel Bosu when he was a graduate of our program, and he didn't even graduate high school, because it's impossible to find a cloud architect. And why is that? Because people, either they get 10x certified and they learn everybody else's job other than the architect job, or what they do is they spend their time learning coding and DevOps and sysops, which is not anything related to what we do. They get all these hands-on roles, and then they go to the manager, and the manager wants to know how they're going to sell. The manager asks them to give a presentation on the interview. And the reality is C-Fenton 07, I've interviewed over 6,000 people, and less than 50 were hireable. It's that hard to hire somebody good. So that's why, whether I mentioned Yvonne Tamba at AWS, I really love the kid, that's why I mentioned his name first. Whether it's Balwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom getting hired, and she's been a stay-at-home mom, it really doesn't matter what your background is, it matters how good your competency is. First job I wanted 10 years experience. I had 0. Second one wanted 20 years experience. I had 6 months. Doesn't matter. Just be great at your job and you'll get any job you want. But it's a very good question.
Yeah, and am I still here?
Yep.
Oh, my video froze on my end. I don't know if it's frozen on your end.
Yeah, it's frozen for us, but we can still hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So close
I was
your
going
video,
to
turn
say
it back.
one more thing is that and I'll let Mike or Alonso talk about this, but why do they put the experience on there?
Okay.
It's because they're trying to gauge competency, and I'll let you guys talk about that since my video is not working.
Yeah, and then and maybe mute your video and come back. So, here's the thing. They want to know that you're not an empty certification.
Mm-hmm.
We get bombarded by people that think we're going to be impressed by taking a bunch of certifications. And guess what? They come to us and can't do anything. In fact, I know a lot of hiring managers, if somebody has more than 3 certifications, won't even waste their time interviewing someone. I'm one of them. Because I know if someone is basically focused on wrapping paper and instead of the substance, there's just no point. So, we want experience because we want to believe someone has competency. But, here's the thing. I used to practice internal medicine. When I did my clinical rotations, one of them was a doctor. He was actually 75 years old. He had been practicing for almost 50 years. I think he killed every patient he touched. He was just that bad at it. I also did a clinical rotation with a 31-year-old, fresh out of school. This guy was a genius, and I think he saved more lives than I can count. It has nothing to do with how long you've been doing something. You can be doing it great for the last 20 years, or you can be terrible for the last 20 years. Remember, when companies do layoffs, only the bottom to 5% get fired. The other 95% are there. And, you've got your A players, your B players, and a whole lot of people that really don't contribute that we still keep as part of the company because we want to, because we want to give people a chance. So if you're great, you'll have no problem getting hired. It's super, super easy.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, you think about if you have the experience, but you've had the experience that's incorrect for years, you've just solidified a layer over layer incompetency of you being able to do the job. Just because you sat in the chair to do the job doesn't mean you have you've done it well. And then let's flip the coin on competency. If you had the competency to understand the job, you would have negated all those years of being unable to do the job. That's why we value competency over experience time and time again. You have to be able to speak about the job. We have tons of examples about how certifications do not equate to experience, let alone competency. It is a nice window dressing for who you are, but ultimately having the fundamentals via that competency and the ability to build that and focus on whatever type of cloud architect you want to be, that's what's going to get you the job. From Nikki, a data engineer versus a cloud engineer, what are the career prospects? Also highlighting pros and cons in terms of salaries and time to get the knowledge into these spheres, which is shorter.
Okay, Nikki, I got to be something. The one that's shorter and has the least barrier to entry is the job that's going to be the worst for you long term. In economics, we have something called the supply and demand curve. The harder the job is to get, the harder the barriers to entry, the more time it takes. That's the job that pays the most. And we're not just talking a little bit different, we're talking a lot different. So your goal should be to do the best thing you possibly can. What if I told you, Nikki, that engineering jobs are really in trouble? See, as more technology comes out, AI comes out, cloud architects say, wow, we've got a new tool to improve business performance. And as new technologies come out, we need more architects. Now, I'm going to talk about architects before I talk about engineers because I truly want to help you. The architect asks the client about the vision for their company. The architect then figures out how the client's business works today, call it a business architecture. They then help design the future way they want the business to work, including the people, processes, and technology. The architect then asks the client about how their data architecture is. What do they have now? What's working? What's not working? The architect then designs a new data architecture based upon the way they want it to work in the future, based upon the new business. The cloud architect then, or enterprise architect or network architect, it really doesn't matter, then is going to go down the path of figuring out the technology the organization has. What's working, what's not working. Then they're going to design the future technology based upon the future goals. This is for all architect careers. Now, the architect needs to figure out the kind of people that are necessary to manage it, a governance plan. Now the architect's got to document it, present it back to the customer, sell it, and negotiate it. And what does that all spell to you? Human, 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 human. Now, I was a principal architect in 2 years, and there's a reason I'm showing you some data, and then I will actually get into the engineering piece, but I want to give you the warning first. Here's a principal architect job at Microsoft. Pay range is about $380, but there's a $200,000 range of $300 to $495. Principal architect job at Google, we're dealing with a $508,000 job on average, with a pay range of $394 to $677. What determines that? How good your interview skills are and how good you can sell. And I'll get one for Amazon if I have it with me. I don't have it with me, but Amazon's average salary for a principal architect is $372. Now, again, what makes us so special? Human, 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 human. Now, AI can do 90% of the cloud engineer's job today. AI can do it. IBM recently laid off 8,000 people, and they hired more customer-facing people like architects while they laid off 8,000 people, and they laid off back-end workers like engineers. So AI can write a Terraform script. AI can write a Bash script. AI can spit out the CLI to configure anything to the cloud on somebody that doesn't even know what it is. AI can write a Python script. These are a lot of the skills that you're going to need for either the data engineer or the cloud engineer. And the tech can do it now. The tech doesn't cost anything. It doesn't get an hour salary. It doesn't get sick. And it doesn't ask for a raise. And it doesn't go on a paid vacation. So if you're going to do engineering, please understand that it's a very self-limiting career. AI means many, many, many more jobs for architects and many, many less jobs for engineers. So the key is, if you're going to pick one of these engineering careers, make sure that you focus on your soft skills, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your executive presence. And that way, when the engineers get laid off, you can move into a more salesy engineer role or something like that. Both jobs will basically offer you the same pay because engineers have a very limited pay because they don't have the high end like the architect. And either is good. They're both going to take you the same amount of time. You just have to be great at them. So pros of engineering salaries is if you don't want to talk to people and want to sit behind a desk, you got a job there. The con is there's going to be a lot of layoffs for engineers and a lot more architect jobs. So if you do this, please be careful. We had an extraordinarily good cloud engineering program. And about 18 months ago, we made the decision to stop selling it. And the reason is this. I don't sell anything where someone doesn't have an elite career in the end. And I am deeply concerned about cloud engineering and data engineering and software development jobs. So there's good. Now you know there's bad, but I wanted you to be informed as you plan your career.
From Oleni, okay. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name. Hi, I'm interested in the network aspect of cloud. I also would like to add security. How would you help?
Well, the first thing I would do is tell you not to do both. You got to pick one. Olani, what if I told you that if you went to Cisco or AWS or Google or Microsoft or any enterprise, you're going to have a network architect or engineer that's going to be an expert on just BGP. And then they're going to have another one that's just an expert on OSPF. And then they're going to have another one that's going to be an expert on PIM sparse mode for multicast. And then there's going to be another expert on wireless. And then there's going to be another expert on automating networking things. And it's all in the area of networking. What if I told you that I've spent 25 years on BGP and I'm an expert in BGP? If you try to learn networking and security at the same time, you're going to be terrible at both. So the first thing is, I would say, pick one and master it. Now, we have to understand which one of these things that you're interested in. Are you interested in building it? Are you interested in designing it? Now, if you design it, you'll have double the salary and you'll have a better life. But both jobs are good. The question is, what would you actually like to actually do? And that's the question I have for you. Do you want to be a systems designer? Because if so, it's one set of things that you need to learn. Or do you want to be a systems builder? So architect versus engineer. If you tell us that, because to be an architect, we're going to talk about all the things that you need to understand. To be an engineer, we're going to talk about all the things that you need to do. See, here's the difference. If I take a router and I type in this, let's say I've got a router in Japan, and I type the commands as a network engineer, router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168.1.1, remote AS 65313, network 10.0.0.0, mask 255.255.255.0, neighbor 192.168.1.1, activate. Now, I did that on a router in Japan. Now, next thing that's going to happen is a whole bunch of routes are going to come into my network. Now, that routes in the router in Japan may affect Tyrone, who works for me in Cape Town, South Africa. It'll affect Eddie, who works for me in Cameroon, Africa. It'll affect my student Mufaz, who's over in Lagos, Nigeria. It will affect my sales team in New York City. It will affect my video editor in Colombia. It will affect Leo, who works for me in Brazil. And it'll affect Chow in Dallas. It'll affect Alonzo in Houston. It'll affect me in Palm Beach, and it'll affect Chris over there in Tampa. All from one thing that one person had. So see, engineering is about configuring what's in front of you. Architecture is all what happens together. In healthcare, we have something called, what is it called? General systems theory. And it's how one thing affects another thing, which affects another thing. We use it when we teach nurses and sometimes doctors. We probably should use it for architects as well. So the key is architecture is not what's in front of you. It's the implications of everything that you do. Engineering is what's in front of you. And that's why I need to know whether you want to do what's in front of you or what's behind you. So I need to know engineering and architect, but we can get you there. You want to be a cloud network architect? We'll get you there. We'll train you, and I've got lots of people getting hired for these things every day. Same things for cloud security architects, but we got to pick one and we got to be great at it.
From Crispin, well, I am a systems engineer, and I have noted that technology is evolving into the cloud. So I would like to understand where I can start in the type of cloud trend. Where should I mainly base at?
Well, again, it determines what you want to do. Systems engineer is a term that's kind of meaningless. So, but it doesn't matter where you start. The reason I say it's meaningless, in some places it's a sales engineer. In some places it's a person selling networking gear. In other places, it's a person selling firewalls. In another place, it's a person that's working on the design of PC boards. So I don't know what you mean by a systems engineer. I had a principal systems engineering job at one company, and I mean, it was totally different than the other systems engineers and 10 different companies. So I need to know what you mean. Now, once you tell me what you want to do, then we can tell you there, because the skills of a cloud network architect are very different than a cloud security architect, which is different than a cloud big data architect. Same thing with a cloud network engineer is different than a cloud security engineer, which is different than a cloud engineer, which is different than a cloud data engineer, which is different than a cloud software developer. So everything is cloud. Hybrid multi-cloud, super cloud, private clouds, it's all cloud, and it will be, and it always is going to be. Likewise, I've been working on the cloud since 1996. First cloud was Frame Relay. But I need to know what you would like to do, because that's going to determine your path. If you want to get on a plane and fly to Miami, it's a different flight path than if you want to get on a plane and fly to Dubai. Tell us that and we'll get you there. Sorry for being so specific, but I really need to be precision in order to help you get to your goals.
Yeah, I want to take a second to chime in with everybody. It may seem like that we're not giving you the answers that you want, but that's because we want to make sure we give you the right answer for what you want to do. It's not a one size fits all situation here. If you want to become a cloud architect, then it's going to be a completely different type of development plan than if you want to become a cloud engineer. or a data engineer or a DevOps expert. You know, all of these have different needs and different skill sets. And so it wouldn't be fair to us to just come out here and say, yeah, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'd be the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for every single role. That doesn't help you because that's not reality. And so that's why we ask if you guys can give us a follow-up to let us know what's that specific desire. And maybe you don't know, and maybe that's fine. If you don't know, that's fine. That's what we do these. That's why we do these things, because we understand that there's a lot of confusion. So that's why I just wanted to put that out there. Make sure everybody understands that we want to make sure we give you the best answer for you, and not just an answer. So.
And we're being so specific because 95% of the people we train already took someone else's boot camp and learned the wrong skills. They already have certifications and has the wrong skills. They got a master's degree in cloud computing and they want to be a cloud architect, and we have to convince them to forget everything they learned because it was all related to sysadmin work, and then teach them, and then we get them hired.
From Latif, what is the best path to get hands-on and industry experience ready for the role as a cloud security engineer?
The best, well, defensive or offensive cloud security engineer.
Excuse me, let me retract that. He says this is really an eye-opener webinar. I have narrowed down my desire to become a principal cloud architect.
Okay, so here's what you need to become a principal cloud architect. You have to understand that this is a hybrid role of an executive and a technology professional. As architects, we are not even allowed to touch the technology. If you work at AWS, Apple, Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Capgemini, JP Morgan Chase Bank, or any real organization, we design it and another team of engineers builds it. So understand this. And you put the principal cloud architect and the principal cloud security architect. You'll earn far more as a principal cloud architect than a principal security architect. So the things that you need to learn are as follows. You need to learn executive presence. That's how to be taken seriously. So watch. Hi, I'm Michael Gibbs. I'm a cloud architect. You're not taking me serious. Now, hello, I'm Mike Gibbs and I'm here to help you. So you'll have to learn how to develop executive presence. The next thing that you will need to learn is how to develop something called CXO relevancy. Obviously, we train all of these things in our training program. CXO relevancy is you've got to talk to the C-level executive. They're the people that make the decisions on what they care about. Chris is my chief operating officer. Now, if I ask Chris, do you worry about Python code?
No.
No. And if I tried to talk to you about Python code, what would happen? Let's say I was the architect.
I'd be working on something else, maybe listening to you.
Exactly. And Alonzo is my chief marketing officer. What does he care? Brand building, okay? So, hey, Alonzo, let's talk about BGP. You excited?
I am. I like it, though, but normally
Alonzo is also a cloud architect, but that's the key. So the key is you have to know what to say. When you speak to a CEO, they're planning things that are 20 years out. When you're speaking to the engineer in front of them, they're planning things that are 3 months out. So you've got to be able to position what that person calls that CXO relevancy. After my MBA, I have about $20,000 of additional training in that. It's impossible for most people to get the $300,000 plus education we have. So we have a training program for that so we can help anybody. The next thing is sales. When I showed you these jobs, I showed you a huge difference in pay between the top and bottom paid position. That's because we get commissions in these jobs. And if you don't sell, you get fired. And if you sell a lot, you get promoted to principal architect. And when you sell a lot more, you end up at the $677,000 side. When you sell a lot less, you get the $394,000 or you get laid off. So you must learn how to sell. Now, as architects, especially as principal architects, we do consulting, so you have to learn consulting. We give presentations every day. As architects, you've got to learn presentation skills. You also have to learn executive writing skills, which is the exact opposite of what I learned in my MBA program. And yes, I took writing training after my MBA program too. Now, on top of that, you need system design skills. So what is a cloud? It's just somebody else's network and data center. That's all it is. So you have to be able to design things. When a customer says, I want to increase my sales performance, you have to translate that into systems that will improve their sales. When a customer says, we can't get our software development done in time, and we've got a ton of software engineers and they're doing nothing, You got to figure out what artificial intelligence can do 2/3 of the work, and then have the software engineers that they have actually go code and edit the work versus doing it themselves. When someone's an airline and they say, I've got to get my fuel cheaper, you got to think about the technologies, think AI, that can make better predictions for them to purchase fuel contracts. So you've got to learn the business and the tech things, which are network and data center things. Now, if you download that free architect guide, guess what? It'll tell you everything you need to learn to have an exceptional architect career. And I promise you, it's the best job in the world.
From Elvis, cloud security architect. How can I get there?
Okay, Elvis. So the first thing is you've got to learn all those business things I talked about. CXO relevancy, sales skills, executive presence, executive communication, leadership, emotional intelligence, business acumen. Now, once you're done with that, you have to learn security design. So what are we talking about? We're talking about designing security. What does that mean? Designing a security policy, you'll have to learn. Security frameworks, you'll have to learn. How to determine the security training that needs to occur in an enterprise, whether that be anti-malware education, anti-phishing education, anti-social engineering education. It involves things like learning how to design demilitarized zones for web applications, remote access users. You're going to need different demilitarized zones for each. You're also going to have to learn how to design security. What kind of firewalls to use? How many firewalls? Intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems. You've got to get good knowledge of how they work and how to architect them for security. Where to use packet filters, for example, like access control lists on routers. When to micro-segment with VLANs, for example. Now you need to learn encryption. The types of encryption for storage, hashing algorithms and how they work, not how to build them, how they work. Hashing, when to use IPsec versus SSL, those kinds of things. You'll have to learn about the kind of vulnerabilities that exist in systems and how do you protect against those vulnerabilities. How do you harden systems? Not that we're going to be, dealing with removing Linux packages, but somebody will to harden our Linux operating system. How do you set up for remote access? I promise you, if you use a Bastion host, your replacement will thank you for the great job. I know they teach it in certifications, but you can't use it in reality because it's a major security nightmare. How does the organization do vulnerability management? What kind of vulnerability management needs to occur? How do we determine who the users are, what they're allowed to do, and log and keep track and audit those later? These are what we do as cloud security architects, and I've gotten lots of them hired. Lots of them, with and without experience, no big deal. But you got to learn that. You learn those, you will have an extraordinarily good cloud security architecture career, and people will fight over you, and you will constantly get offer after offer. Those are the skills that are there. You get those skills, you will have an extraordinarily good career.
I like this next question. This is a good one.
Also, go ahead, Mike. Chris.
What do you look at when recommending cloud architecture to someone versus cloud engineering?
Well,
first of all, what do you want to do?
Yes.
and then what do we do after that?
So first you got to figure out what you want to do. You're going to earn 3 or 4 times more over the life of your career as an architect than as an engineer, but that's meaningless unless you're happy. You got to be happy at what you do. I strongly encourage you to think about the future of engineering. Architecture cannot be replaced by AI, but I believe 50% of people that are engineers will be gone within 5 years. The CEO of NVIDIA, and I agree, said that within 7 years, every person will be writing code by basically talking to their computer and saying, I want to make a new calendar for me that has these features, and the AI will do it. If you study engineering, realize you will most likely be replaced by technology within 5 to 7 years. But if you study architecture, the more technology that comes, the more they're going to be there. If you want architecture, realize the farther away you are from the technology, the more you earn. The closer you are to technology, the less you will earn. But I need you to consider this in your mind. If your job is to present, and your job is to sell, and your job isn't to lead, which is what an architect does, and that makes you miserable, and you want to code and configure, go do it. But Nikki, here's how you become an engineer and don't get lost. If you're going to be an engineer, do the exact opposite that 99% of the engineers do. Don't get 30 certifications in 30 different people's jobs. If you do that, you know what happens? You become bad at 30 different people's jobs and good at nothing. If you want to be an engineer, pick the thing that you love the most and be great at it. Be so good that artificial intelligence, which is better than the average person, you're 10 times better than the artificial intelligence. Develop such a strong attitude that you are the go-to person that people run to and say, I want Nikki for this because Nikki is the best. If you want to be that kind of an engineer and realize that a lot of these engineering jobs are going the way, they can't get rid of people that can bring out the best in others. Why? If we have 100 engineers and we can get rid of 80 of them with AI, we still need those 20. Be one of those 20 that people love talking to because those people never get laid off. Be one of those people that can bring out the best in others. Why? You got one person and they bring out the best of the other 19. Even if you're not that good at the job, you're still an asset because you enhance the productivity of the other 9 people. And learn how to lead. So, Nikki, if you're noticing, I'm giving you a lot of architect skills that I recommend in engineering. And the reason is we have something called the distinguished engineer. And I was on one of these principal engineering and distinguished engineering teams early in my career. We got paid the same as architects did. And you know what we did? We designed solutions, we presented them, and we sold them to people. We talked about things. The difference was that the architects were playing golf. The architects were doing more schmoozing. And we were dealing with the technology professionals in those organizations. So you can still have a good engineering career, but what I say is do what you love. I learned to practice internal medicine. That was my job. I did. Guess what? I didn't love it. I liked it. I didn't love it. I still practice as a volunteer periodically, as a volunteer for no money, and then it's fun for me. But my love was architecture, and I developed every little bit of effort with that. Within 6 months, I was a lead architect on Wall Street, designing systems for the largest market maker on the NASDAQ. You can do anything you want. Anything you want to achieve, anybody wants to achieve, you can do it with the right attitude, effort, and focus and plan.
All right. So we got 2 questions. I'm going to put them up. They're distinctly related, so that's why I'm going to put them up. So, oh, no, not that one. Adozi says, I need your advice as I want to get an entry level into the cloud. Which job can I get? And then Nikki asks, as someone new to the cloud, what are the entry level jobs available for cloud architecture?
Okay,
So,
I hate to break it to all of you. There's no such thing as an entry-level job, and it will take you years longer to get an entry-level job as it will a good job like an architect that pays $150,000 to $200,000 a year. I need you to understand why. We used to have entry-level people to go into an office and rack and stack servers. They'd carry these big, heavy things in. They'd have a drill, zip, 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 zip. Somebody would pop in a cable, and then you had to install a hypervisor on them, and then you had to have somebody build the virtual machines. We don't do that anymore with the cloud. Somebody else already did it. So all those entry-level jobs are gone. Next entry-level job, admin people. They add a user. I add Chris Johnson to the user. They add Alonzo Coleman as a user. Then they have to create 50 virtual machines to install the operating system. Now I got a DevOps engineer that in 5 minutes generates a Terraform script that launches 150 virtual machines. That just took 20 entry-level people out of a job. And now we have artificial intelligence. So don't worry, you can still get hired. Don't get an entry-level job. Stay away from CompTIA anything, because it's not going to help you. Stay away from junior-level skills like sysadmins and sysops. Stay away and develop good, deep, strong skills. Strong skills. Like I did. My first job was a senior engineer. Al Legister very recently got for Deloitte. His last job was for Kimberly-Clark. He was selling tissues and other things. And he's a senior solutions architect. Daniel Bosu didn't even graduate high school, and I use him because he has had everything going against him and has got a job as a solution architect, not a junior one. You know, when we dealt with Jordan Kitko, who was a college student, he got hired by AWS as a solution architect. Not an associate architect, which was a training position, a real solutions architect. Vladimir was a 24-year-old college student, got a real solutions architect job after our training program. Delray Best was an ambulance and an EMT, got his first cloud security architect at 24 years old, at CDW after our program. So the key is don't go for an entry-level job. Make yourself great and get a better job. You know, there's lots of reasons for do this. Let's say you get an entry-level job at $50,000 and you're there for a year, and then you get a next job for $60,000, another one for $80,000, another one for $100,000 after 5 years. My students graduate and get a $180,000 job as the first job. So over those 5 years, it's an additional $500,000 that you earned by not doing that. Your next raises and promotions are better there. So, you know, we don't create a doctor by having them start out as a medical assistant and then a licensed practical nurse and then a registered nurse and then a nurse practitioner doctor. They go to medical school. Do the same thing with your career. Don't waste your time on entry-level everything. Let the certification junkies who learn certs and don't learn skills take those entry-level jobs if and when they can find them. I want you to get a great job. I want you to start midway through. I want you to already take a job that needs 10 years experience on average, which you can do if you're great. And then let all those other people waste their time. You go to the top. You work for the top, and it's going to be easier because there are no entry-level jobs anyway. In fact, a year and a half ago, I actually put out a video series, you can see it on this channel, where I said why you shouldn't study for entry-level jobs and why there were no entry-level jobs. That's the reason. So don't study for an entry-level job. Be great. While you're at it, download the free guide on how to be an architect. Come tomorrow night for the Cloud Architect Challenge. Come on Thursday for that Cloud Architect webinar. And guess what? You'll know everything you need to learn. And you learn all these things, you will not be a junior level anything. You'll walk in with a senior level role, just like I did.
All right. So Emperor Kiro says, so I was here a couple of weeks back. You guys have great information on Security Architect. I've just one more question. I'm a beginner. Should I focus on A+ or skip it?
Don't do anything CompTIA. Skip it all. Here's what the A+ is. PC repair, if you wanted to be a PC technician. So in the United States, we've got a retailer called Best Buy, where they sell TVs and radios and stereos, and they've got a geek squad. They're the people that get an A+. If it was on your resume, I'd tell you to remove it because it's actually going to harm you more than it's going to help you because it sets the wrong message. For example, I had a student, Arun, really love this guy. He came to me. He had an AWS DevOps certification, an AWS SysOps certification. He had some silly developer certification and a couple of these CompTIA things. And he went on interview after interview and nobody was willing to hire them. He was my student, so he knew he was a great architect. I asked him in class, can I get rid of this stuff? He's like, but Mike, I worked hard for it. And I said, can I take this stuff off of your resume? It's sending the wrong message. And he said, sure. He had 3 offers within a month because now he was getting the right interviews for the right jobs. Don't waste your time on PC repair, Emperor Kiro. Let's say you spend 3 months on an A+, the average architect earns $16,000 a month. It now costs you $48,000 of lost earnings to waste your time with that. Just don't do it. Now, if you want to start a PC repair business, I recommend it, but not to be a cloud architect. You got to get the right skills for the right job.
And just because I don't cherry pick questions here, I'm going to put this up here, but you literally just answered this, so I am not going to let you go through it all again. Emperor Kiro says, I don't know, Mike. Have you had students with no experience become the role desired?
Every day of the week.
To be fair, this question came in at 2:25. So
Chris, you're not going to let me go through the 100 or so people that recently got hired with 0 experience whatsoever?
No, you've already done it 3 times. And Tyrone shared the link to the testimonials. So
and that's only a share. We don't create we don't take most testimonials. We're too busy getting people hired than to go out there and self-promote ourselves, but you can still see probably 20, 25 of them.
Yeah, I was going to put that up there and let you answer it, but I didn't realize you were going to answer it in your previous question.
I mean, one of the great examples is also, I think while you were on vacation, Chris and I had 2 of our alumni who are actually enterprise architects showcase what they're doing now reflects what they learned in our development programs. So that's also a great resource.
And that's great. And Jermaine, one of those enterprise architects, guess what? He was selling landscaping gear before we got him his job.
All right. So that's a lot. Brandon says, hi, Michael. I've been working in systems admin, networking, and desk side support for the last 3 to 4 years. I have basic programming knowledge in languages like HTML, JSON, Bash, etc. Currently, I have a certification in AWS Cloud Practitioner, I'm guessing, and completing my solution architect cert as well. What is your advice in the direction of the cloud I should pursue given the knowledge and experience I have now? Data pipelining and cloud solutions are some ideas I've had. What material should I hold on? Let me see if I can go over here to LinkedIn. Oh no, they didn't pull all of it. What do you want to do, Brandon?
Yeah,
I'm going to start it with that, and then I'm going to take it down because it's covering up too much of the screen.
So Brandon, what you did in your past doesn't matter. What do you want to do in your future? You know, last night, before my wife left, I had turkey bacon, 4 eggs cooked in some olive oil, and I had some whole grain bread, which I never eat. That was a bad meal for me. Guess what? Today I woke up and ate my oatmeal with protein powder and blueberries in it. Today I had a healthy meal. Because I had a bad breakfast yesterday didn't mean I had to have a bad breakfast for today. I used to practice medicine. 6 months later, I was a senior engineer, and 6 months later, I was a lead architect on Wall Street. What do you want to do? Your past is your past. It already passed. Your future is what you desire to do. And they're so different. I think that you should focus on what you want, not what you've done. You know, what if a Navy SEAL left the military and said, the only thing I know how to do is shoot? How many Navy SEALs do we see that own leadership organizations, that start businesses, that work as executives, that work as leaders? Many. Because what they did in their past taught them lessons. Take those lessons and then extrapolate it to what you want to do in the future. Nicole Chow was a student of mine. She's impressive. She's now working as a cloud architect. She was a teacher. It doesn't matter your past. It matters what you want to do. So what do you want to do? What you've done in your past is not what shapes your future. Your desires shape your future. What you've done in your past is your past. If you're loving your past, keep doing your past. If you're not totally satisfied with your past, if it doesn't excite you, do something for the future. So what do you want to do? Then we can help you get there. It's not what you've done in the past. Every day is a new day.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. We got someone we know that is a prime example for cloud data architecture.
We sure do. I have a student, Praveen, who's an extraordinarily good cloud data architect. Now, mind you, Brandon, he was a data architect, and we retrained him to be a cloud architect, and he got out of data because there's more options in cloud. But I still love cloud data architecture. So what do you need to do that? First, you need to learn the architect skills, which is sales skills. It's executive presence. It's leadership. It's emotional intelligence. It's presentation skills and CXO relevancy. And business acumen, because you're going to be solving business problems. You learn that, and you're halfway there. And then you got to start learning data. What does that mean? It means learning the types of databases that exist and how you can use them. Learning the types of mapping and reduction functions that you can use to normalize data, to get your information out of your NoSQL databases, out of your data warehouses, out of your NoSQL databases, out of traditional object storage into another form of object storage, for example. Then you've got to learn about catalyzing the data. Now that you've got the data, maybe we set up some machine learning. We think about using machine learning to help analyze the data or sift through the data. Then maybe we need another tool to visualize the data. It's learning about extract, translation, and loading tools and which ones to use and how to use them. It's learning about what can be done with data and how can an organization better use that data. See, data is an asset. Now, most organizations have a ton of data and they don't use it for anything. As far as I can tell, the only people that really used their data until recently was Google and Facebook. They're experts at using data and using it. But for the most part, most of these companies haven't been there. But learn about data pipelines, learn about streaming data. I think Kafka, not AWS Kinesis, because what's taught in that won't work in a multi-cloud environment. Learn the cloud big data tools, learn the non-cloud tools, whether it's PyTorch, TensorFlow, or all these other things that are being used. Learn what can be processed on the CPU, learn what can be processed on the GPU, learn what can be processed on ASICs or fully programmable ASICs, which are slower than ASICs, but they can be changed over time. Learn how to design those systems, and you'll be there. You'll have a great data architect career. Great question, Brandon. DevOps engineering student, what to concentrate and how easy is it to get a job from Cameroon? Well, as it stands right now, I actually have 2 people working for me in Cameroon, Eddie and Ansem. One's in Bamenda and one's in Bo. So plenty of opportunity for you no matter where you're at in the world. I am not a great DevOps person, so I'll give you the best I can. And I'm going to tell you to go look up Sandeep Das over there in India. He runs he does a lot of training around DevOps. If you are actually in Cameroon, I actually believe engineering is good. See, what happens is engineering can be done anywhere in the world. And in the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, we're now at the point where we have our architects work, and as we lay off engineers, we hire them in other parts of the world for arbitrage purposes. And Cameroon is a great place. If you're on the English side, you speak great English. If you're on the French side, you may speak French and English. So there's lots of good opportunities there. But what I would recommend is that you learn those DevOps tools, things like Jenkins and Spinnakers. I'd recommend that you got great software development skills, because DevOps is merging software development with automating the release cycle. So you're going to have to be a developer first to be a good DevOps engineer. I would also recommend you get pretty good at Python, pretty good at writing some automation scripts. I would recommend that you get very good at Kubernetes, and I recommend that you get very good at Terraform. That'll get you 50% of the way there. While you're at it, to stand out, I recommend practicing your interviews and improving your communication skills. And here's the reason why. When you go on an interview, nobody's going to know what you know until we ask you questions. And the way that you respond to those questions is going to be the way that we determine whether to hire you or not hire you. But I am not a DevOps person, and generally speaking, I advise people to avoid that career. But if you're in a country like India, Pakistan, Africa, that's where I see most of these engineering roles going. So I think in getting a remote job over there shouldn't be too challenging whatsoever. Go out there and build your brand and make the world come to you. There's so many extraordinarily good engineers that we work with in Africa every single day of the week. And like I said, I've got 3 people on my team. Tyrone, who's behind the scenes, is in Cape Town, and I've got 2 people in Cameroon. An incredible number of wonderfully talented people there. And that's how I would do it. But also check out Sandeep Das. He's a great DevOps engineer.
All right. And Dia asks, what is the difference between a cloud architect and a network architect?
Yeah, something I've done. I've had both of these jobs. A network architect like me designs the network, only the network. What's your BGP architecture going to look like? How many peering points are? You know, what kind of interior gateway protocol to use? Do we choose OSPF? Do we choose intermediate systems? Do we create an MPLS backbone to our system? Do we come up with a SD-WAN environment? Do we use a SASE WAN environment? Are we running any kind of QoS policies on our network? All network, and nothing else. Cloud architect, we now design the systems in the cloud and the data center. What is the cloud, by the way? It's somebody else's network and somebody else's data center. That's it. So where the network architect only really deals with the routers and the switches and the routing, the cloud architect now needs to deal with routing, switching, compute, storage, security, applications, databases, and the such. So the cloud architect role is a very generalist role. The network architect is a very focused specialist role. There's an incredible number of opportunity for both. I could get a $400,000 network architect job by tomorrow. I could get a $500,000 cloud security architect job by tomorrow. There's more of these opportunities than you can possibly imagine everywhere. Don't worry about that. So there's plenty of these opportunities. But in both of these roles, it's all about communication, leadership, sales skills, executive presence, business acumen, those kind of things, because people buy technology to improve their business. So while the engineers focus on the tech that's in front of them, we architect focus on the problems that the tech can solve, not actually touching the tech itself. But these are wonderful jobs, and I've done both, and I love both.
right. I'm currently studying cloud engineering with a fully funded scholarship. What area can I specialize with a great job prospect?
Anything you love. You could focus on cloud networking. You can focus on cloud security. You could focus on cloud in general. You could focus on data. It really doesn't matter. What matters is how good you are. That's it. How good you are. So figure out what you want to do. I'll tell you, there's a lot of opportunities in networking and security because nobody knows networking. Nobody can understand it. You know, when I did my CCIE back in 2001, it was 2000, I had been told upwards of 3 million people attempted the exam. This is hard when it was a hard 2-day exam before Cisco made it easy because people kept getting angry because they kept failing. And, you know, when you take the exam, there were 20 people in the room with you. When you'd finish on the last day, you were the only person left in the room. The other 19 failed. So networking is always good because most people don't understand it. Security is always good. But, you know, data is going to become something that's big in the future too. So, you know, you could do data engineering. The real key is something that you love. That's it. That's all you have to do, is something that you love and be the best at it. You're always going to have good job prospects. But I caution you this. The difference between a $100,000 engineer and a $400,000 engineer is communication skills, leadership, and business acumen. So if you really want the best job, focus on what the tech can do for the business as opposed to the tech itself. The tech is just a tool. Then you'll always have good options.
So what if a job is not the route I want to take? Can I work for myself as an architect?
So Saeed, of course you can work for yourself as an architect, but here's what I want you to think about. For me to work for myself as an architect is easy. I can get on my cell phone, I can call the CEO of one of 150 big organizations and say, I'm consulting. Do you have a need? And 20 of them will say, Mike, I got this project, I got this project, I got this project, and poof, I'm out there. That's me. Now, if you've never worked as an architect before, who's going to pay you $400 to $600 an hour to design something for them? Now, when it comes to being an architect, Saeed, you're going to have a team. With every architecture I do, as soon as I'm done, I go build a team. A cloud security architect, a cloud network architect, a data architect, some DevOps engineers, some cloud engineers, some software developers, some application architects. If you're on your own, you're going to have to go build that team. So I like to tell people, if you want to start architecture consulting on your own, you're going to need between $30 and $50 million. And the reason you're going to need a $30 to $50 million budget is you're going to need to hire about $5 million of staff every year to help you with the consulting, because no one architect can design anything on their own. The next side of it is you're going to need to build the market. You're going to have to go to these clients. What if I told you that for $1 billion architecture design, you might have to spend $5 million in the sales process? I'm not joking. So you're going to have to spend a lot of money on sales. You're going to have to build a name for yourself in marketing. You're going to have to book meetings, which is going to cause you to fly all over the world. You're going to be doing executive briefings. You're going to be doing presentations. So if you work as an architect for a decade first, you're going to have the context to be able to call people at businesses that are going to give you the work. And you're also going to have the skill to do much of it yourself. If you just try and think you can start an architecture consulting business, and I've seen people do it, they don't get any work. Because, you know, it's one thing for me to pay $1,000 an hour to a good architect that can do the job. But I'm not going to pay $1,000 an hour to somebody that's never consulted for somebody. And when you want to start your job, you're going to be able to say, like, I worked for Bank of America. I helped with Kaiser Permanente. I helped with Hospital Corporation of America. I helped with Catholic Health East. You know, I helped with the Dubai Marina project. I helped consult to Verizon. I helped consult to Comcast. Now I've got references, and people are going to say, yes, I want to pay for your services. Now, Saeed, if you work for Microsoft and someone says, I want Microsoft, they send you in. Nobody's going to care that you've only had 6 months experience because you've got Microsoft and you've got the support behind Microsoft. But if you try to build the business on yourself, make sure you have $30 to $50 million first to start, to build your brand, to build the marketing plan, to do all the sales, and to hire the team. And in the end of the day, realize you're going to be competing with Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Microsoft, Cisco, and all those big IBM and all those big players that can outspend you beyond what you can even imagine. It's a reasonable question, though.
All right. From Igor, what is your opinion about preferring for a concrete job versus taking a first opportunity to have your foot in the door?
It all depends on the situation you're in, Igor. And what I mean by that is, if you're currently in a low-paying position and you need money and somebody gives you a good enough job, I'd rather take that good enough job, hold it for a year, and prove that I'm a rock star. And Igor, I know you. You are a rock star. And once you get your first job and you shine, people are going to say, who is this guy? This guy over there in England from Poland, he relates well, he speaks well, he's got a good heart, he's got a good attitude. Wow, let me promote this person. And you would move up. Or a year later, and I hate saying this, but sometimes what happens is when you're the new guy, or the new girl, people see you as the new person, and you get typecast like in the movies where a certain actor does a certain kind of things again and again and again, and they get typecast, and you've got to go somewhere else. So sometimes you take one job as a stepping stone and go to the another and double your salary. But for you, Igor, I think anybody would like you, and I think you would excel anywhere you go. So you get an opportunity, I would take it, as long as it's good enough for you.
Darnell Morris says, I used to be a Cisco voice engineer. I'm Cisco CCNP route switch and voice. Wish to go into cloud. However, I'm not good at giving presentations or speaking publicly. And I don't know if it's directly related, but immediately, like a few minutes later, asked what are the different types of cloud architect?
There's every different kind of architect you possibly can think of, whether it's a cloud network architect, a cloud voice architect, like a unified communications architect, a cloud big data architect, a cloud application architect, a cloud security architect, a cloud AI architect. So there's a lot of them. Now, for any job, you're going to have to get good at presentations, but that's okay, Darnell. What if I told you that I was shy? What if I told you that I'm an introvert? What if I told you that before I used to give presentations, I was so nervous, I would sweat and get nauseous? And then I got presentation skills training and practiced it again and again, and it became second nature for me. We're good at what we train. So you used to be a Cisco voice engineer. Now, you also said CCNP route switch. Did you used to know that a type 1 LSA and OSPF was generated by the router, and a type 2 LSA was generated by the designated router? Did you know when you were born that a type 3 LSA was a summary LSA in between areas, and a type 4 LSA told you about autonomous system border router reachability, and a type 5 LSA was an external LSA, meaning it was redistributed from another route? No, you learned it. Did you know SIP and SIP trunking, or did somebody teach that to you? Somebody taught it to you. So guess what, Darnell? You'll learn these things and you'll be a great architect. I come from the networking world. In fact, I actually built my career on voice, even though I knew nothing about voice. That was the architecture that actually built and changed my career. When I was at Cisco, I was placed on the most strategic voice over IP unified communications project. I told my manager I don't know anything about voice, and he says, that's okay, Mike, you're a great architect. Go build your team. I did what I was good at. I brought in the other people that I was good at, and I got a lot of training, and it was perfect. I closed the deal. It was highly strategic, and the next thing I realized, I'm in a super leadership position. Darnell, you've got a great background. If you actually understand routing and switching, you probably understand 30% of the cloud already. And if you understand voice over IP, guess what? In unified communications, not only did you have to learn quality of service, you had to learn about servers and storage and processors and DRAM. Again, that's going to take another 10% that you're going to be there. So, Darnell, you can be great at anything. It's all about the training. Nobody was born an airplane pilot. They learn. I learned to practice internal medicine. I wasn't born with it. I learned to be an architect. I wasn't born with it. You get the right education, we'll get you there. We could easily get you there.
Mason says, I'm interested in cloud, but don't know where to begin. Are there any entry-level cloud roles that I can target to get my foot in the door?
Mason, would I hire anybody to fly an airplane without the correct training? Would I hire anybody to be a physician without the correct training? Would I hire anybody to be a lawyer without the correct training? Guess what? They're all entry-level roles. Somebody doesn't have 10 years experience before they fly an airplane. Somebody has never had a practice before they open their own doctor's practice, and nobody's ever been a lawyer before they become a lawyer. They're all entry-level jobs. Now, if you're asking me about the old school entry-level sysadmin jobs, I'm going to tell you they're harder to get than actually training for one of the better jobs. And here's the thing, you can't learn one skill by just learning on the job. You know, we're no longer in a world where you work in a factory and somebody teaches you how to use the screwdriver, and then they teach you how to do the drill, and then they teach you how to use sandpaper. We're in a world where when you touch the cloud, you're dealing with the customer's systems. Let's say it's Bank of America systems. Can they hire somebody that knows nothing and ask them to work on their systems and have them take the systems down and lose millions of dollars a minute? No. How about a hospital? I got a new entry-level cloud engineer. They don't know anything. They make a configuration change and the hospital systems go down, and then people die. So amazing, you can easily get a job, but stop looking for entry level. Get the right education to get the right skills to get the good job. I'm not hiring any more entry-level people. Nobody will. The entry-level jobs of racking and stacking servers, gone, because we don't have these things on the cloud. The entry-level job of a cloud admin cleaning and configuring this stuff, why would I hire that person? I can hire one DevOps engineer and they can replace 50 of those entry-level people. But there's an incredible number of jobs, and companies are begging for them and they can't find the talent. I can get on the phone with the chief information officer, the VP of HR, or any hiring manager, and they're like, Mike, please give me, who's ready to graduate? Who's ready to go? Who do you recommend for me? And I do it all the time. So don't worry about entry level. Get the right training, the right skills. You're gonna have to invest in your education, and then you'll get a great job. So there's millions of entry level jobs. Architect jobs, engineering jobs, millions of them. Just get the right skills. Get the right skills and you'll have access to anything. But I wouldn't plan on entry level. I'd plan on being great.
All right. So Silence Poet asks, how important is it to be high energy? I'm not naturally high energy, but I have great communication skills and can present well as well. I'm just always nonchalant.
Hi, Silence Poet. How are you today? You know, Silence Poet, it's nice to talk to you. Let's talk about how I could help you with your career. Hold on. All right, Silence Poet, what is it that you like? So as soon as I become low energy, I become not listening. Nobody's even going to listen to me. Now, I'm not saying you need to be like Tony Robbins and bouncing off the ceilings, but you've got to have at least the level of energy that Chris has, or Alonzo has back there, or I have. You need to have it. Because would you listen to somebody that's not excited about what they're doing? Would you listen to someone that feels like they need a nap? And more importantly, Silence Poet, would you hire someone that doesn't look energetic or enthusiastic? Remember, you're paying this person to work. And I've got somebody that looks like they want to work and somebody that looks like they need a nap. I can tell you I'm hiring the person that wants to work. So develop your energy. Whether you need to work out to get your energy. I'm nothing without a workout. Whether you need to meditate to increase your energy. Whether you need to eat the right foods to increase your energy. But go out there and build yourself up and be great. That's necessarily. Now, you don't have to be high energy all the time. You can be calm and cool and collected 99% of the time. Get in front of that customer, wow them, and go back to being calm.
Yeah.
And that's actually me, the people that actually
right.
know
That's
me.
what I was about to say. I was going to say, Mike, I think the best way to call it is probably situational high energy. You know, if you can be high energy when you need to be high energy, then that, and the key is knowing when you need to be high energy. I think that's the key.
Exactly. And that's really the key. If you guys see me on my own, I'm wearing a t-shirt and flip-flops, at least before my foot injury. I'm practicing yoga every day. I'm meditating. And when I got to go on, poof, I'm on. And when I'm done, I'm hanging out, cuddling my cat. My cat Cindy's sitting with me. And we're watching right now. We've been watching this TV show called Suits, Cindy, my cat Cindy and I. My wife doesn't like it. She says there's too much conflict. She makes me watch this show. It's called 90210. It's an older show, but right before that, my wife told me we're watching Hannah Montana, which was kind of hilarious too. So But yeah, just make sure
All
you
right,
turn it on in the interview.
back on topic. High energy. What do you need?
High energy. So be high energy when you need it. The rest of the time, go be you.
Yeah. All right. So make sure you get any last questions you have in, everybody. We're almost caught up with our questions. And when we run out of questions, we will be wrapping up. So let's see here. Joshua says, as an aspiring cloud security professional, what's the roadmap like and what practice and projects would recommend? Also, what kind of jobs can I begin to apply to when I have the AWS cloud practitioner with associate level cybersecurity knowledge?
Okay, Joshua, let's separate the certifications. You can have an AWS certified solution architect professional, and I tell you, if all you did was pass that exam, you can't apply for any jobs because you'll get a million interviews and no one will hire you. So let's talk about real skills instead. You need to have good skills, strong skills. You can apply for the jobs when you have the right skills, regardless of any certifications you have or don't have. Jeffrey West, I think, had a cloud practitioner and got hired. Delaware Bad had 0 certifications and got a cloud security architect job. It's not your certifications, it's your capability. So here's an example. Joshua, let's say you and I met for lunch and you wanted my help. I've got 25 years and I've literally gotten probably 1,000 people really great careers. I can't tell because I lost track. If you knew that the average salary of one of my graduates was $200,000 a year, do you care if I show up in flip-flops and a t-shirt and ripped jeans, or do you care if I show up in an Armani suit knowing those are my results? You don't care because I'm good at what I do. It's the same thing. The certifications are like putting on a suit once you're ready. But by themselves, you're not going to hire someone just because they wear a nice suit. So the real key is this. You need the right skills. So first, with regards to cloud security, I need to know if you want to do offensive security, which is where you break into systems, versus defensive security, which is where you prevent them. If it's offensive security, what we're really talking about is we're talking about people that hack into systems. And that means your knowledge, you've got to be really good at hacking. You've got to be really good at things like Kali Linux tools and hacking tools. You got to be really good at what's called social engineering, which is how to manipulate people and to do things, to find the weaknesses in the organization. And the offensive cloud security people break into these clouds. And by doing so, they can tell the bank, these are your security weaknesses. So for them, it's about hacking. By comparison, for the defensive security engineer, it's about locking systems down. And that means getting hands-on configurations for engineering. Remember, architects don't touch the tech, but engineers do. That means the architect themselves is going to be, the engineer is going to be configuring firewalls, next generation firewalls. We're not going to be using AWS WAF for about anything, except for Mike Cindy's website, because, but enterprise stuff, it's going to be firewalls. Palo Alto, Cisco, Checkpoint, Fortinet, deep, strong firewalls. We're going to be dealing with IDS, IPS systems. You're going to get some hands-on experience. You're going to need a lot of hands-on experience with packet filters, whether they be access lists on routers, whether they be security groups, those kinds of things. Or network access lists in AWS, for example. You're going to have to get very good at locking systems down, Joshua. So let's say you start up a Linux system, it's vulnerable. It only becomes less vulnerable when you close ports and disable unnecessary services. It becomes less vulnerable when you put a host-based firewall on it. It becomes less vulnerable when you put a host-based IDS, IPS system on it. It becomes less vulnerable when you put endpoint security on the appliance, things like anti-malware on there, antivirus. So, there's that. What kind of encryption strategies? Do we use symmetric or asymmetric encryption? Do we use one-time passwords? How are we going to set up these identity and access management systems? I promise you, no real business is going to use AWS IAM. They're going to federate to an identity provider or something like Active Directory. So get hands-on with those kind of things and get practicing. How are we setting these things up? So for the engineer, it's all about how you build it. For the architect, it's all how you design it. So kind of keep those in the back of your minds. That's how you get it. You get hands-on for engineering, and you get leadership, sales, communication, and design for architect jobs. Great, great, great jobs.
Mason asked, can you give me a roadmap for the cloud engineer role?
Of course. Now, Mason, please be careful. AI creates new jobs for architects and it kills jobs for engineers. And the reason is the architect's job is related to communication and leadership and sales and communication, which can't be done by tech. And artificial intelligence can do cloud engineering. So if you want to be a cloud engineer, I need you to be the best and highly focused. What do cloud engineers do? They build the designs that the architect designed. So what does that mean? It means you're going to be hands-on every day with Linux. And that means if you're a cloud engineer, you better have good Linux skills, whether that be Ubuntu Linux, whether that be Red Hat Linux, or whether it be one of the flavors like Oracle Linux or Amazon Linux, which is pretty much Red Hat without the support. So make sure you're good at Linux. If you're an engineer, you're going to be scripting. Windows PowerShell scripts, Bash Shell script for Windows, Bash Shell scripts on Linux, you're going to be doing all the time. If you're an engineer, you're going to be writing Python scripts constantly to automate. If you're an engineer, you're going to be either using the command line for small stuff, or for big stuff, you're going to be using infrastructure as code. Now, nobody's going to be using Azure Bicep or AWS CloudFormation templates because everybody's multi-cloud. They're going to be using something like Terraform. So get really good on that. Now, remember what you're configuring as an engineer is the cloud. And what is the cloud? It's somebody else's network in a data center. So that means you need to understand networking and data center technologies, meaning storage area network, servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, databases, for example, the kind of applications people use, the kind of security hardware that's going to be keeping out there, those kind of things. That's how you become a great cloud engineer. And when you're done learning all that, you can pick up one of the engineering certifications like the Azure Solutions Architect Expert or the AWS Solutions Architect Professional. When you know these things, it'll be a couple days to pass that. When you don't know these things, it's going to be very hard. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But that's the roadmap for engineering if you want to go that way.
All right. Follow up from Mason. Are cloud support technician roles worth working towards?
Mason, if you love support, the answer is yes. But once you go to secure support, you get branded as support, and it's going to be very hard to get another job after that. I typically advise people to avoid help desk, support, or programming roles if and whenever possible, because they're the lower paying ones and they're really hard to get out of. So I wouldn't work towards a support technician role at all. I would work towards a bigger job and go straight for it. You'll have an easier time getting it. And I can also tell you, if you think it's going to be fun having people call and scream at you all day long since things don't work, that's going to be the worst job you can possibly imagine for the lowest pay. And since I'm all about standard of living, I want all you guys to be able to afford any house you want, have as many Mercedes as you want, and be able to take care of your family and have generational wealth. Putting yourself in a position where you're going to be abused all day and yelled and screamed at all day for the lowest pay, I don't think is worth it. But if you love helping people solve technical problems and you're truly going to make you happy, well, then it is. But realize you're going to be abused all day and yelled and screamed at all day. So I don't consider that a role worth starting in.
All right. And I asked the Observer to send us an email. They asked about working with the military. Do we offer veteran scholarship to attend? So I gave them the email address to reach out to us.
Sounds great. Thank you for your service, Observer. Send us an email.
All right. And then Freedom asked, how much sleep do the three of us average on a 24-hour basis?
I get about 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Over the course of the whole day, I probably get 8 hours. Yeah.
A little less. I got kids.
Darnell asked, I think they mixed something up here. Can you please explain what a voice architect engineer is? I've never heard of a cloud voice architect before.
That's
okay. So Darnell, engineer, architects, completely exact opposite. So let's say earlier in my life, let's say one of the world's largest banks, because this is true, reached out to me and said, I need a new voice system. We're trying to connect our financial advisors closer to our customers. We want to give our financial advisors the tools to go out there and prospect for clients without getting sued from people being on do not call lists. And I designed a system, and this is about 20 years ago, so today it may seem minor, but the reality is people would call them. The system design was this: someone would call their financial advisor. As soon as somebody placed a call to the financial advisor, they'd get a screen pop on their system, which did a computer telephony integration between the CRM database that they had, which was Salesforce, and the actual computer. So now Alonzo calls and says, Mike, I'm interested in Cisco stock. And all of a sudden I get it. I see all of his assets, his liabilities, his mutual funds, his stock portfolios, his likes, his dislikes, and things like that. Now, while we're actually at it, Alonzo says, Mike, I need a new mortgage, but I'm not the best person to sell him a mortgage. I transfer the call with that. Now, Alonzo's service, the mortgage guy gets a commission, I get a commission, and the sales is done, and it's better. At the same time, financial advisors do a lot of calls. And those financial advisors do a tremendous number of calls. So while they're doing these calls, they have to call people. And if they call people on a do not call list, they get fined. So we had to create the design had to have an integration point. I think it was Norstan that had the do not call list at the time when we connected that. Now we're designing voice, right? So voice means we need to design the quality of service to make sure we've got the right queuing in place. We had to, like a low latency queuing was perfect for this particular application. At the same time, while we were at it, we had to upgrade the network to make sure there was sufficient bandwidth. We had to create some rate limiting policies in case a worm or a virus would be there. And then we had to deploy these things in the 26,000 locations. That's an architecture. The architect works with the executives. They find about their business goals and they figure out what types of unified communications technologies would necessarily solve those problems. Cisco's got an incredible number of people that do these things. I don't know if Avaya exists anymore, but I used to compete against them about 15 years ago. I never lost against them, but we used to compete against them. Those are those kind of things. So, there's that. But where do we host our voice systems now? Do we host our call managers in the data center? Maybe, but we could host them in the cloud. So a voice architect is doing the same thing, whether it's on the cloud or off the cloud, as they would have done for the last 20 years. Cloud is nothing different than somebody's network and data center. And how many people actually have a plain old telephone service anymore? Every enterprise is going to have some form of unified communication. So there's that. Creation of expert networks, getting the right person called at the right time. Find me, follow me. Call transfers, rich media, all that's what unified communications architects do.
All right, so let's see. Latif asks, what is the difference between the live and non-live cloud architect career development program? Would they have the same training and job support after completing the program?
Well, these are similar and different programs. In the live program, you're in class 3 days per week. You're in class, which means you're going to design architectures with me, live and in class. In the non-live, you're going to watch a video of somebody else designing the architecture, meaning not you. Now, the content itself is the same, but one is you're actively participating and the other is you're watching people participate. So that's some of it. In the live class, we do practice interviews periodically. In the live class, I may practice interview you. In the non-live class, you're going to have somebody that you're going to watch other people interview and you're not going to get the experience. In the live class, you're going to get presentations and get coached on it. In the non-live version, you're going to watch other people get presentations and get coached on it. In the live class, I get to know you, which means, when you're in our program, when we give everybody an internship so they have a job title in their resume to help them get hired to show experience. In the live class, somebody's going to call me and say, what do you know of Latif? And I'm going to say, Latif is fantastic. I've seen him design these architectures. I've seen him present them. I've seen him sell it. And the non-live class, when somebody calls me and says, Mike, do you know Latif? I can't say anything because I've never met you. So there's a major difference between the live and the non-live. Truth be told, I think the live one is worth about $25,000 more, even though it's only $1,200 more or $1,250 more. We created the non-live for people that either can't attend live classes or for people in the developing world that couldn't afford it, and this is the only option we can give them because we were very serious about helping others in parts of the world, but they just can't afford it. So that's why we have it. The live classes are Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern for 2 hours, Thursday at 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and Fridays 1 to 3. And why do we pick those times? We pick those times because the majority of our students are either in North America, South America, England, continental Europe, or Africa, and these times work for every one of those populations. We do have plenty of students in India, plenty of students in Pakistan, plenty of students in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and Japan, and it's harder for them to do some of these classes, but we pick these times because we're really concerned about making sure we can get the majority of the people in the class when we do them.
All right. So just so that everyone is aware, we're going to be able to answer the questions that have been submitted, but we may not be able to answer any new questions. So we'll see how the time works out. Lucky asked, could you please give me a roadmap for the infrastructure automation? Not sure what that means.
I honestly don't know what you mean. Everybody's definition is different. Cisco has their DevNet to automate routers and switches. I don't do any automation other than designing AI systems to actually do what people did in an automated fashion. So I don't know what you mean by infrastructure automation. If you can get a little clearer, I can probably help you.
Yep. All right. Nikki asked, please, what does it take to be a big data cloud architect?
It's going to take you becoming a master on big data, and it's also going to becoming a master at learning sales, executive presence, leadership, emotional intelligence, and business acumen. Because remember, we're designing these systems to improve somebody's business performance. We design it, present it, and sell it. If we can't sell, we can't get hired. If we can't present, we can't even pass the interview. So that's 50 to 80% of the job right there is leading meetings, selling, designing, presentations, those things. So that you got to learn that. The rest of it is having a good understanding of which kinds of databases to use and when. When do I use a NoSQL database? Do I use Apache Cassandra or MongoDB? Why? I've got more write activity, use Apache Cassandra. I've got more read activity, use MongoDB. Why can't I use Google Cloud Bigtable? Why can't I use AWS DynamoDB? Why can't I use Amazon Aurora in a multi-cloud environment? Because I can't use any of that stuff. Why not? It includes understanding data ingestion pipelines. It includes understanding and learning how to design streaming data, aka Kafka. You're not going to be using AWS Kinesis because, again, it doesn't work multi-cloud. So how to be dealing with Kafka. It involves understanding how to design data lakes. It involves understanding how to catalog data. And it's involving understanding which types of machine learning or deep learning algorithms to use to mine the data. It's understanding the data visualization tools. It's understanding how do we map and reduce the data to normalize our data from one platform to another. It's understanding ETL tools. That's what it takes into big data. And we've trained big data architects to become cloud architects because there's obviously higher salaries as a cloud architect and more advancement as an architect. But I still love this big data thing. And I think organizations will basically get to a point where they will start to use data as a bigger asset. And at some point, there'll be more opportunities there.
All right, from King Leo. Mike previously stated that getting an enterprise architect role out of the program and no tech experience isn't likely, but there are students who have done it. What separated them? What is something that they've done that I can implement to make it to an enterprise architecture role outside of the role? I don't know. Also, I was a wire technician, maybe? I don't know what white technician might be, before which I did see there's some of the same knowledge, technical knowledge that is applied.
So, King Leo, here's the thing. I've had students that became an enterprise architect out of my program. And truth be told, we teach so much enterprise architecture in our cloud architect program, the right people can actually do it. For example, Jermaine was selling lawnmowers and became an enterprise architect. Wallace was a really good sales rep and he became an enterprise architect. Angela was an application architect and became one. Pritipal basically had a tech job and became one. The secrets to the people that become the enterprise architects is they take me seriously and they work hard on their executive presence, harder than anybody else. They work harder on their sales skills. They develop more business acumen. They develop more leadership. They develop more executive presence. The cloud architect role is 70, 80% business and 20, 30% tech. The enterprise architect job could be 100% business in some places and 80 to 100% in others. So it's more business. Yes, I've gotten plenty of students enterprise architect jobs from our cloud architect program, but I don't like to say that we can do it because when I tell somebody we can train them and get them a job, I want to be serious that they can do it, that anybody that does the work can do it, not my top 2% of the people can do it. And that's why I'm very particular that I want to make sure that we're clear about that. Yes, many people will become an enterprise architect out of our training program, but I don't think it's reasonable to promise people that. And that's why we say cloud architect first for a year or two and then enterprise architect. So freedom. So you asked the question, is there times when a cloud architect would use GCP over AWS or Azure over the other two? Do these cloud providers, are they equal? Freedom Lounge, where do you buy your eggs from? Does it matter if you get it from Publix, Aldi, Acme, or any other supermarket? They're just eggs. Who gives you the best prices on the eggs? Walmart or Publix? Buy them from Walmart. The cloud is just somebody else's network and data center. That's it. If you get a virtual machine from VMware in your data center versus a virtual machine in AWS where they made up the silly term EC2, or a virtual machine in Azure, or a virtual machine in Oracle, or a virtual machine in Google, it's the same virtual machine. It's the same one. Guess what? It's all the same. So who gives you the cheaper price? Who enabled you to negotiate a better deal? The reality is you're going to use 2 or 3 of them. If I was going to use AWS and Azure, I wouldn't do disaster recovery on either one because that would be just silly. I mean, we're not going to follow the bad guidance of I'm in AWS, I'll back up to a different region. What happens when AWS is down? If I was using AWS and Azure, I use Google. If Google wants my business more and gives me 10% cheaper prices over AWS, I'll use Google. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, same stuff. All the same. Granted, there's some proprietary services that are better. You know, for example, Microsoft's the best AI cloud. Google's the second best AI cloud. AWS, nowhere close on the AI side, but AWS has bigger infrastructure. But it doesn't matter. All pretty much the same. So it doesn't matter. Which sales rep do you like better? Who negotiates a better deal? I mean, there's subtle differences, but for the most part, meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
All right. So that was the last question. King Leo says, tell me what to do. I'm willing to get it done. I'll put in whatever work that's necessary. Scheduled to join the program in the next couple of weeks. We're ready for you. So we are looking forward to it. That was the last question. So Mike, I will let you close the show.
I hope this was a good and informative session for you all. I want you all to have the best careers. And while you can hear all the lightning coming even outside my house, even though I'm pretty far away from what's going on. So I'm glad you were here. Please download the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job ebook. It's going to help you get the job of your dreams. Hey, while we're at it, we've got this free why tech skills are not enough. And we'll show you how the secret to increasing an extra $100,000 or $200,000 a year to your salary is not by your tech skills. It's about those other skills that are truly what you necessarily need to do. Third, come tomorrow night for the Cloud Architect Challenge and see if all those certifications and cloud projects have taught you anything about architecture. You'll see for yourself. If you can easily do my architecture, you're ready to be hired and you can walk on in your next interview and get hired. And if you're not, you will at least have to think about, is what I'm doing getting me to my goals? And if not, what can I do to get to my goals? Because that's the secret. The interview should be, and I've never been on an interview where I didn't get a job. The interview should be a nice meet and greet. They ask you a few questions, you answer it, and poof, you're hired. If somebody's gone on more than 3 interviews and didn't get hired, it's because there's a problem. Problem with interview skills, problem with communication skills, problem with depth of knowledge. And a lot of times it could be any one of those three. Come tomorrow night to the completely free webinar. My team will pop it in the chat box, the Cloud Architect Challenge. We're going to have lots of fun. We're going to design a cloud architecture, and you're going to do it the real way. You're going to ask the right questions. You're going to create the design. I'll help you. And then you're going to present it back and sell it back to us, just like we do as architects every day. Do that, and you have a future you can't even imagine. I'd like to thank you for attending today. If you have a chance to like this, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new things we're doing for you to help you in your career. Please do so, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.